Mr. Barr here for your business and tech lesson of the day. Just want to remind anybody that hasn't done so, you're showing probably a 0 for your review if you didn't turn it in. If you did turn it in, thank you, but like I said, if you're not turning stuff in, you're getting 0, so make sure you're checking your STS. But yesterday we talked about GDP, which measures the total dollar value of all goods sold. Then we looked up the components of GDP, your needs, food, clothing, and housing, spending on that, business spending, government spending, which both of those are big money. Then we looked at exporting and importing. We import quite a bit in our country. We export quite a bit, but we probably import more, obviously. Then U.S. was 11 trillion. I told you that it's actually right now, 10 years later, 21 trillion. GDP per capita is dividing that per person. Looked at some numbers and explained those. Then we talked about employment and unemployment, productivity. Then we looked at how personal income and retail sales are indicators of what is going on. And then now today we're moving into economic challenges and changes. So a business cycle is the movement of the economy from one condition to another and back again. Go ahead and pause if I'm going too fast. It's broken down into a couple parts. So prosperity is when most people who want to work are working and GDP is increasing. So prosperity is good times. So everybody who wants to work has a job. People are spending money like crazy. Recession, businesses lower production, unemployment rises, and GDP slows. Obviously, lower production is bad, unemployment is bad, and GDP dropping is bad. Recession, but it's not for a prolonged period of high unemployment and weak sales. Recessions are short blips, depressions are long blips. Recovery is when unemployment decreases and GDP begins to rise. So when you have a recession, eventually you're going to have a recovery, and even in a depression, at some point you'll have a recovery as well. So you've probably heard the term inflation before. Inflation is one of these weird deals. Inflation hurts people that are on fixed incomes since the prices go up and what they make stays the same. So basically what you're looking at is if I'm a retired person and I am only making this amount of money and I can't make more money, pretty much that is what I'm making. And all of a sudden, gas is an example of this. This happens from time to time. Gas goes from $2.50 a gallon, which it is right now, and hopefully it never happens again here, but it goes back up to $5 a gallon. So your gas doubles. Well, if I'm on a fixed income and now the price of my gas doubles, that can be very difficult for a person that can't change that. So fixed income people struggle at times when you hit inflation. Even I would probably struggle somewhat on that because I am a salary worker and my checks are the same every month, which is good. But in an example like this, it could be bad because I don't have more money to go get unless I want to pick up another job. Causes of inflation, demand of goods is greater than supply or high unemployment. The measurement of inflation is somewhat difficult because it's only for that certain period of time. And at times we would probably not know, when it's going to happen. If it happens, it might be a quick blip. So it's difficult to measure it. Price index is the number that compares the prices in one year with a similar year. So that's kind of what we try to do. And then just the opposite is called deflation. Deflation is when, the price of something goes down to nothing. So in the the Great Depression, our dollar was worth nothing, crops were worth nothing. So you could work all day on crops, but you couldn't sell them because they weren't worth anything. So this caused a Great Depression because it was a prolonged period of really bad time. Interest rates are something that are super important to have an understanding of, because it has such an impact on what you can buy and will be able to buy in the latter part of your life here. So basically what you're looking at is there's different types of interest rates, and what an interest rate basically is the easy way of looking at it is what it costs to borrow money, because it's pretty rare to be able to borrow money at 0%. Because if I'm borrowing money at 0%, that means the bank gave me money and I don't have to pay them anything other than that amount. So if I borrow $10, I got to pay them 10 back. Usually if you borrow 10, you got to pay back 11, so it costs you $1. And that's what interest rates are. They're the dollar that they're charging you. So prime rate is bank's rate to the best business customers. So if I'm a super good customer, I have a great credit, I pay my bills on time, they're going to give me the best rate they can possibly give me, and that's the prime rate. Discount rate is the rate financial institutes are charged to borrow from the FRB, which is the Federal Reserve Bank. So for instance, if I own a bank, I actually borrow money from the Federal Reserve. And the Federal Reserve is going to charge the bank an interest rate. So let's say, and it's right now it's dirt cheap. So let's say the Federal Reserve Bank is charging 1%. So they're charging banks 1% to borrow money. So then our banks have to at least charge us 1%, so they break even. But most times they're going to want to make money. So if they make 1.5 or 2% charge to us, they're making 1%. Sounds confusing, but whatever percent the federal borrows to us as an institution, we tend to want to go a little bit more so we can make money. T-bill rate is the yield on short-term government debt. This is if I invest in the government, I can get a T-bill and the government takes my money and then they pay me back something for that. Treasury bond is a longer term, same deal though. It's when I give money to the government, get a bond, whatever, and then I say this is what I'm borrowing to you, and as long as I hold out for that period of time, when it's all said and done, I'll get my money back, plus something else. Other interest rates that we'll talk about here would be the mortgage rate. This is to borrow a home. And I'm sure you've somewhat heard it. If not, I'm going to let you know right now. The mortgage rates are cheaper than they've probably ever been right now. If you talk to your grandparents maybe about buying their first home, they may say, yeah, we bought our first home and we paid 10, 12, 13, 14, whatever, some high percentage to get this house. Whereas right now you can borrow almost 2%. So it's as cheap as it's ever been. So when you buy a house, you borrow $100,000 from the bank to buy your house. They're going to charge you 2% on that borrowing, so they make a little bit extra money. Corporate bond is the cost of borrowing for large U.S. corporations. So if I have a big company and I want to get some money, I can ask for a corporate bond, and basically you go and they sell to people. People invest in my company, they give me money, I make money, and then I pay them back with interest. A certificate of deposit is the rate for 6-month time deposit. Some changing interest rates. Each day the cost of money changes because of factors, and like I was just telling you earlier with the Federal Reserve Bank and borrowing money right now, that the factors are as low as they've ever been because they're trying to promote spending. What happens is when savings are high, the interest rates is low. So if everybody in America is saving money, the government tends to drop and drop and drop the interest rate to try to get us to go out on a spending spree. But then at some point, maybe we start borrowing too much and they don't want us to keep borrowing. They'll raise the interest rates to stop that from happening. So right now we're in this low trend because they're trying to get people to spend money, and people are borrowing like crazy because, like I said, it's a great time to buy a house. Great time to, other than the fact, I wouldn't say it's a great time to build a house right now because the materials are high, but your rates are low. So really, I mean, if you can save enough by getting low interest rates, it might be worth it. But here at some point, they're obviously going to have to switch this where they start raising the interest rates, so it's just a matter of time. That's kind of where we're going to stop today. Good luck. Go ahead and do your 2-2 questions as well.